Good afternoon and welcome to a special edition of Standpoint. I am Veronica Dan Ikboy. Nigerians are known to be resilient and happy people. We easily adapt to situations and sometimes even make comedy of it. 2017 has arguably been a tough year for many Nigerians, from grappling with the effects and after effects from a protracted recession coupled with double-digit inflation, both of which saw the prices of goods and services skyrocketed, leaving many unable to afford necessities. Now we are faced with fuel scarcity. How much really can Nigerians bear, and for how long? On the show today, we will be focusing on the state of our nation and analyzing the many problems facing the country in leadership, politics, the economy, and much more. And to do this with me is motivational speaker, life coach, and the CEO of Gemstone Leadership Group, Fela Durotoye. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. And let me start with saying compliments of the season to you and to all the viewers.
Same to you. Yes. I'm so honored to have you on the show.
I'm grateful to be here.
All right, let's start this way. Since 1999, we've been practicing democracy. All of that, some have said we've had several challenges as a democratic nation. But then, what's your scorecard for Nigeria? How have we fared?
Well, I mean, I always like to put it this way. There is a particular video that was done by the United States Information Services, USIS, and it's online. And I think that I want to challenge everybody to take a look at it. You just Google it and say USIS, 1961 visit of Tafawa Balewa to the United States. He had come, the recently independent nation had just, Tafawa Balewa, our Prime Minister, was making his first visit to the US and on the invitation of President JFK, Kennedy. Yeah. And you would see the grandeur and the pomp and pageantry with which he was received by the United States. You would see people lining up on the streets, waving to this gentleman. And every time in the course of that video, you would see them say that this newly emergent nation, that is the promise of Africa. And every time I would hear that, my heart would almost bleed. For that is how the world looked at us. Looked at us 56 years ago. We were the promise of Africa.
So something has changed.
Something happened. And if you look at some of the statistics, then it helps us to know whether or not we have lived up to that promise. All right, so I'll give you an example. In the year that I was born, 1971, on March 24, 1971, one Nigerian pound, because we were using the pound at that time, hadn't become the naira, one Nigerian pound was exchanging for $3 US. So in this country, as at when I was born, you needed $300 to get 100 Nigerian pounds. By the time I was 5 years old, that was 1976, on the same day, March 24, 1976, one Nigerian naira was exchanging for $1.33, meaning you would need $133 to get 100 naira. Fast forward 30 years, something has happened. On the same day, March 24, 2006, you now need 133 naira to get $1. Fast forward 10 years, March 24, 2016, you now need 331 naira to get $1. Fast forward a year and a half, right? Yeah. 2017. You now need 360 naira to get $1 US. So now you can ask, for a country that is based, literally has driven its production capacity down, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria positions or says that our capacity utilization is about 3.4%. Okay, so that means of every machinery that can produce 100 tons of whatever it is, we are producing 3.4, almost 3.5 tons with the machines that can produce 100 tons. Clearly, I think the verdict is out. We are a nation that has great potential, but has not yet been able to turn its potential into the reality so that it can mean, prosperity for its people, it can mean prestige amongst the League of Nations and all of that. Nigeria has been a disappointment for many, and you can feel that disappointment and despair for a lot of the people. However, we have not lost our potential to be great. This is the good news.
Okay, now from your explanation, you could see the decline.
Yes.
Over the years. Now the question that comes to mind is, what happened? Is it our vision? Is it that, what exactly happened? Is this the reason why some people say that Nigeria is a failing state, and some have said it is a weak state?
Okay, so before I talk about and just touch on weak and failing, you touched on something that is absolutely critical, and that is the fact that is it a vision problem? Because at the baseline, in one way, yes, it is a vision problem. Nations are like houses. They have to be built. And they are built, while houses are built by carpenters, plumbers, masons, painters. Nations are built by nation builders. But like every other house, you build a house only after you have seen. There must be an architect that sees the house, blueprint, that says, this is the kind of house we're trying to build. It's a bungalow, it's a 4-bedroom house, it's a this, it's a that. And then they lay out the blueprint so that they know where the sitting room is and then where the toilet is. So the plumber does not put a water system or a toilet seat in the sitting room. They will put it where it's supposed to be. So everybody knows what they're supposed to do. And I think that, yes, you've said this. What is the vision for Nigeria? And has there been one? So there was a vision, no doubt, before independence. There was a vision by a generation that I call the generation of liberation. And that vision was that there will one day be a day that we will govern ourselves. So Independence Day was a very clear vision for the generation of liberation. But when you listen to the speech, and it's online, you can Google it. Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa gave a very interesting speech on Saturday, the 1st of October, 1960. And it was very interesting that if you listen to that speech, he kept on talking about, I would like to say thank you to all those who have worked with us to come to this point. I would like to say thank you to the Queen. I would like to say thank you to this. But whilst everything he was saying was how we got here, and anybody can challenge me on this, it's online, I didn't see, or I wasn't born then, but I've read through it, I've seen through it, there was no speech on where we are going from here. So when you talk about the dreams of our founding fathers, well, we don't have dreams documented. So there was no vision. So there was no vision. And every time there is no vision, well, if you have provisions such as power or budgets to work with, every time provision does not meet vision, it will lead to wastage and corruption. And so that's why you see that people who worked so hard all across Africa to get independence, when they got independence, they didn't have a vision post-independence, therefore they didn't know what to do with the providence of power, the amazing resources, they didn't know what to do with it. And so today I challenge, and I always say to people, don't forget a target is different from a vision. A vision is a desirable picture of a beautiful future that everybody wants to be a part of. A vision is something that when people hear it, it paints pictures in their hearts. They want it so badly they're willing to give up what they have today to get it. Vision creates hope. Hope is the down payment that you make that will fund the sacrifice that you need to have that vision. The question is, what is the vision of Nigeria? Is it 2020? What does 2020 mean to the people? What picture does it paint in the heart of the people? What picture did Vision 2010 paint in the heart of the people? What does the top 20 economy look like? What does it mean for hospitals? What does it mean for roads? Most people have no clue, because vision are not like targets. Targets can be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Yes, but vision is also smart. Vision is significant, it's meaningful, it's attractive, it's record-setting, it's doing something we've never done before, and it's treasured, meaning when people don't accomplish vision, it hurts their soul. And this is why I'm saying, in agreement with you, one of the greatest challenges that we face right now is we need a vision for Nigeria. And if you have vision for Nigeria that is attractive to everyone, regardless of what tribe you come from, what religious beliefs you have, what language you speak, once you have a vision that is so powerful, everybody wants to see that vision come to pass. So you have something called convergent progression. But where there is no vision, people go in different directions looking for any way out, sometimes even having to cross the Mediterranean Sea. And every time there is no vision, you have something called divergent progression. You know, Chinua Achebe said it in a way that I want to close that with. He said, where the center cannot hold, things fall apart. Yeah. A lot of what you've seen that sounds like Nigeria, oh, are we a failing country? Are we a weak nation? Is that the center is weak. That center is not a federalism center, is none of those things. It is a vision. And a vision that then requires certain values to make it come to pass.
What are
Nigeria
these values?
needs, well, my understanding is, and this is what I'm working with, and this is basically based on an experience that I had. I believe that Nigeria, and I would like to see the person who stands to say to me cannot be. I believe that Nigeria is a blessed country. In fact, I believe that Nigeria, probably more than most nations, is blessed naturally with natural endowment and with the fact that we are a very agile, you know, we are courageous, we are hardworking people. And we have 190 million of us. One other last thing I want to say about the blessing of Nigeria is that if you look on the world map and you look at the location of Nigeria, Nigeria is located literally, and you can go check this out yourself, at the center of the world. And Nigeria is on the equator. Yes. And also almost balanced. Anything to the left of Nigeria is too far from the right. Anything to the right of Nigeria is too far from the west. Anything to the upwards of Nigeria is too far from the bottom. Anything to the downward of Nigeria is too far from the top. Nigeria can be what you will call the production and the logistics hub for the world. Anything you produce in Nigeria will get to any other part of the world faster than if you produce it almost anywhere else. So Nigeria has the capacity. We have the geographical location. We can be the most desirable nation in the world. And a desirable nation is a nation where people love to live, love to work, love to invest, love to do business with. And so if you're going to have a most desirable nation, clearly you must have a most desirable people. So if you're going to have a most desirable nation to live in, you must have a most desirable people to live with. And I believe that the people that you would love to live with, love to work with, have 10 characteristics. I'm going to run through them very simply. Yeah, quickly. 1, make a positive impact on everyone you meet and everywhere you go. Number 2, they must be solution providers and not parts of the problem to be solved. Number 3, they must be role models worthy of emulation. Number 4, they must be their best in all they do, particularly what they're naturally good at. Number 5, they must do the right thing at all times, regardless of who is doing the wrong thing. Number 6, they must value time and make the best use of it. Number 7, they must care and show respect to all through their words and their actions. Number 8, they must consciously build a great legacy starting now, today, and every day. Number 9, they must live lives of integrity and honor. And number 10, they must make their family, their nation, and their God proud. These are the things that you and I want for our spouses. We want it for our children. We want it for our colleagues. We want it. The question is, can we live like this? Absolutely. Is there any religion that goes against these values? No. Absolutely not.
So then...
So we have a vision. If we decide to live and say we want Nigeria to be the most desirable nation, and we have a value system that is integrated at all levels, ethnic, tribal, and it brings us all together, and we can make it happen.
But through the years, like we have you have noticed, or noted rather, every political year, everybody that comes up to be one thing or the other comes with some, let's say, a vision, so to speak. Okay, I intend to do this. This is my focus for my government. Hold on. And then people want to key in because that is what they want to see. For instance, this government came in with the plan of fighting corruption and then tackling security issues and all of that, creating employment.
No, not all of that.
And creating employment.
How? When did we hear a plan though? Was there a plan?
Was there a plan?
Yes.
They should have had a plan.
Did we ask for the plan?
Did we ask for the plan?
No,
that's
the
next.
that's
it. But then I'm headed somewhere.
Please go ahead.
Now, each government that comes in comes with a vision, so to speak, what they intend to do. And everybody keys into this to vote and whatever happens. But then the political will, that is where I'm headed next.
Absolutely.
You have a vision that this is what you intend to do. Then the political will, because everybody wants, Nigerians, let me stop using the word everybody. Nigerians want a system that works.
That's simple. You're so right.
So what is the problem?
Okay.
Marrying our vision with the political will. Is that, okay, you noted that, okay, maybe there was no vision. But then every political year, we get to see different visions that are coming. And then what happens to making things work? You promised, and then we are not seeing anything happening.
Okay, so I'm going to try and make it as simple in my understanding as what I can. The capacity to be able to make any promise come to pass is going to be tied to what I call good governance. And I'm not talking about good governance as having just one good president or one good vice president or any of those things. It's good governance at all levels. Good governance happens when you have essentially good people, and I would say good people are people who have credibility, who you can believe when they speak because they've kept promises before. Good people are people who have the right character because they have the right values. People have the right vision, but more importantly, they have the capacity to be able to take the best decisions for the populace. Okay, so when you have good people in elected and appointed office, they have the weight of bringing out the best in public service. All right. So if you can sort the problem of good people at elected, and you're talking about whether it's executive and legislature, then they would have the capacity to be able to make sure that the best people get appointed without having to ask them for a bribe or any of those kind of things, all right? So, point being that every time you look at the system, it seems like that system breaks down. Why? Because the system was designed to break down.
Really?
Oh, yes.
How is that?
How is that? I love that question. So essentially, this is how it works, right? We have a democracy that we kind of like borrowed the model from the United States of America. It's the model of saying state government, federal government, we also have state houses of legislature, and then, of course, federal houses of legislature, all right? So that's, they have Congress and Senate, we have House of Representatives and Senate. So we use pretty much the same model, all right? But in the country where we borrowed our political model from, right, the people who are members of the party go to the ballot box twice. The first time in primaries to elect or to select amongst the aspirants who will be their candidate. The delegates don't have any power in selecting the candidate. They only represent whatever it was that the people said were their selections. That is how a Barack Obama emerged over the establishment favorite Hillary Clinton, because it was the people, not the party, that decided who it was that would represent the party. Here in Nigeria, the members of the party only go to the ballot box once in terms of the general elections. So you have here what you call internal selectocracy, whereas the places where democracy works, you have what you call internal democracy within the party system. That is the core of everything that is wrong with Nigeria. I repeat, that is the core of everything that is wrong with Nigeria. So as long as a few people have the capacity to sit down and decide who goes and who does not go, we will make you and we will not make you, that is where your power, absolute power, lies. Now, the sad thing about it is that those people are known never to pick the best candidates for a very simple reason. The best candidates will go out there and do great things and win the heart of the people. The power brokers don't want that, because every time that candidate wins the heart of the people, they feel like they lose their power base. All right? So what has to happen is this. Most of the time, they will pick somebody who is unelectable if it was free and fair. They will pick an unelectable candidate for their party, knowing fully well that they have to work the political system and the shenanigans to ensure that that person gets there. Part of that shenanigans is that they then go and pay people who you call them your impoverished voters, who have to be given 1,000 naira, 300 naira, 500 naira, whatever it is for their vote. Go and look at it. Most of the time, that unelectable candidate does not inspire the enlightened electorate. The enlightened electorate don't have to be paid. They don't need your money, right? But the problem is that when the enlightened electorate see these guys, they say, I can't vote for this guy. So they stay at home. They watch the election day on TVC, right? They don't go and get their PVC. And the power base loves that. Because as long as the enlightened, who they cannot influence, don't come out to vote, then the people who they can influence will vote the way they want them to. The only problem is this. Remember what I said. An unelectable person has become elected. He owes his allegiance not to the people, he owes his allegiance to the power structure. Number two, the power structure funded that election, so he has to pay it back. That means no matter how much we dream, pray, ask, or desire, corruption can never leave that particular power system because it has to be funded. The second thing is that the unelectable person must not make the lives of the people better. I'm going somewhere. I'm very in a few minutes.
Because we need to go quickly go on the break.
And if he doesn't make the lives of the people better, then they remain impoverished. Why should they remain impoverished? If you don't impoverish them, the cost of re-election is going to go higher. So the people who you give 500 naira now, the only reason why you can give them 500 naira in 4 years' time is that you must make sure their lives don't see 500 naira as a bulk between that time. So poverty can never leave that system. When you come back, we'll finish talking about this.
All right. We'll go on a quick break and the discussion will continue. Stay with us. Well, you're still watching Standpoint, and we still have in the studio motivational speaker, life coach, Fela Durotoye. Before we went on break, you were trying to break down why you feel or think that where we find ourselves is a deliberate attempt.
Oh, no, let me be clear. Bad governance is a natural outcome of the current power structure that we have today, where a few people essentially have arrogated onto themselves their special interests above the interest of everybody else. And what they've done is to say, listen, we will be the ones to choose who has the right to dream about serving their people, who has access to the platforms, and we're going to be the ones to control that. And once they control that, I said to you, it is impossible for corruption to leave because it has to be funded by that system. Yeah. It is also impossible for poverty to leave because they have to keep the people impoverished for them to keep the cost of re-election low. But there are also two other things that can never be fixed. Education can never be fixed. Why? Because the more people learn, the more they earn. And so if you want to keep people impoverished, you have to weaponize the ignorance. You have to make sure that the people cannot and will not learn, and their children don't learn. So you notice that the children of the privileged go to schools abroad and wherever it is, the best schools, but then they ensure that the educational system fails. The worst people get to go to teacher training colleges or whatever it is. That's the kind of system that it is. So they don't say that your first class teachers are the ones that should go to teacher training colleges. They say, no. If you don't make it into uni, then, go to polytechnic. If you can't make it into polytechnic, then, so what you're doing is essentially making sure that the people who teach your children cannot pass the exams that your children are supposed to set. So now, education cannot be fixed. And the last thing is that you can never have an enabling business environment. Why? Because when businesses begin to thrive and make money, they have the opportunity to decide that they want to fund somebody who can be an opposition candidate. So the best thing to do is ensure that anybody who dares to try to dream outside that economic system created by the power base, anybody who tries to do that must, in a sense, either regret it, never try again, right, or make sure that their profits turn to nothing. We
have a caller on the line, Ifeanyi, calling from Apapa. Are you there? Go ahead with your contribution. Ifeanyi? Yes, go ahead.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
In fact, I want to commend the young man there. The man has really hit the nail on the head. He has set it up. In fact, he has made my day very, very okay. Thank you. In fact, I want this kind of people regularly on this program.
All right.
This guy is excellently too good.
Thank you.
Keep it, my brother. Keep
Thank
it.
you. Thank you so much, Ifeanyi.
Thank you and have a lovely day.
I hope
Thank
you
you.
have your voter's card, Ifeanyi.
Now, speaking about voters' card, bad governance, how do we get out of this, seeing that 2019 is by the corner, because we can see the signs everywhere, everybody, those clamoring for one position or the other coming out? How do we get out of this? Is there any way out of it?
Oh yes, there is a way out. It's the beautiful thing is that nothing can ever be called a problem if it doesn't have a solution. And no matter how long this has lasted for, decades, it doesn't matter. Every problem must have a solution. Otherwise, you cannot call it a problem. You must call it something else. And this one too has a solution. The solution is really about three major parts to it. Number one is that you must find good people who have a heart for the nation, a love for the people, and I always say a love of God in their hearts. And you know, almost really, I like to say fear of God.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
you know what the fear of God does is that it makes you accountable to someone greater than yourself. And so you know that if I ever got the opportunity to serve, then if I messed that opportunity up, I have somebody else to account for. And God sees me when other people don't. So what happens in my desk, it's something that God sees. So let me just quickly come back to that. You need good people to run for election. Now, there are 11,117 elected offices in Nigeria. Most of those, almost 2,000 or so, almost 9,000 of them are pretty much what you call local government and councillorship elections. But when you look at the elections that will take place, especially in 2019, it's federal and state, both legislature and executive, okay? So when you put that together, you'll be talking about something in the region of about 1,200 people who would run. Now, this is the interesting thing though, is that you need to get a critical mass of good people who love the people, love the country, have a vision, have capacity to run for those offices as senators, as members of House of Representatives, as members of the State House of Assembly, as governors, and as the president.
Well, how do we do that? Let me cut in here now. How do we do that when the same power structure that you talked about are the ones who select people that they feel should fill certain positions that the electorate have to vote for, like you explained?
Fantastic. That they can only do it within their what you call their power base. So, for instance, if you have new political parties who understand the power of spinning off movements and organizing, there will be a very pleasant surprise in 2019. I promise you. I promise you. None of the political parties today as we know them, let me not say much more than that. There is a wild card, at least one, maybe two, of parties that wild card, at least one, maybe two, of parties that understand what is called time and chance.
Who are these parties? Because
well,
what we know, we have two
up.
major political parties that Nigerians know about.
Yes.
So these other parties are not pulling their weight as much
some
as
of them may
two
have just
doing.
been registered.
Okay.
But you know the interesting thing about the way that I understand how, just looking at political framework, it doesn't take 14 years or more than 14 months to connect with somebody whose pain you share. People know what it is that they want.
Definitely.
If you're looking at the capacity to be able to build political structure within and around the country, political parties have 14 months to be able to do that. And they will. Some of them will. I know of a few that will. I may not be able to mention their names right now because it's not what I'm supposed to do.
Quickly, we have Kayode on the line calling from London. Are you there, Kayode? Go ahead with your contribution.
I am.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, good afternoon, Fela.
Hi, Kayode.
Yeah, actually, as the other man said, you got everything right. But the issue now is, how do we deal with these issues?
Yes.
Everybody knows that some people sit somewhere and are dictating people to us who to rule. That's no reason they don't want people outside the country to participate in the election.
Yes.
How do we get out of this dojo? That's the question.
Okay, so two things are very important, right? Number one is, Kayode is very right. You know, we need to get the voters out, right? And the statistics are there to show us that the current establishment does not actually have the capacity to bring out a majority of the voters, right? Take 2015 elections. 96 million people were above the age of 18. So their voting class, that's your voting population. Out of that, only 68 million people decided to get their voters' cards. Out of that, only 28 million votes were cast. I didn't say voters, but let us even say that they were voters, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So let's imagine that there was no rigging. Let's imagine, even though we saw that there was rigging, but let's imagine that there was no rigging and 28 million people got voted in the last election. That means 40 million people who went as far as applying for their PVCs either did not go back to collect it or collected it and did not vote. And another 30 million that could have voted said they were not interested in voting. Ask these guys, what is the problem? Why are you so lackadaisical about your nation? You realize they are not lackadaisical. They are pained. They are pained by the options available. So most times, because we have two political parties, the choice is either between this one or that one, this party or that party. What they keep saying, and you keep hearing it, if there was a credible third option, or there was a credible fourth option that we could choose from, then we will be excited to go. So what do you have to do? Typically, you need to go out there and give a candidate that will excite the heart of the people. You need to go out there and not just one candidate. It's a movement of candidates that are inspiring to the people, that are engaging, that have 7 things that you have to know. Number 1, they must have the right priorities, understanding the people and their pain. Number 2, they must have the right plans. Number 3, they must have the right policies, and so on. Now, so when you have those kind of people and they come in and they are speaking to the heart of the issues that the people are dealing with, not just saying we will give you road, we will give you power, we will give you health care. And you know one interesting thing that I found out is that Nigerians have apparently learned enough from 4 cycles of democracy to know when they're being lied to. So they're not going to fall for that.
Well,
all right?
Of course, that's why I said earlier that I'm sure Nigerians have heard it all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If I may use
that's
that
why
word.
and you're so right, because that's why I keep saying 2019 is going to be a very pleasant surprise for the world. Because the political class still believe that the same guys they used the last time to do what they need to do are the same guys that are still available. But the statistics are showing us otherwise. For instance, the local government elections in 2017 showed us something that was a startling, really, revelation, right? Etiosa local government, that is Obalende, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, Lekki, Oniru, Aja, that's 4.5 million people. You should expect that if 55% of your people are above the voting age, 4.5 million, maybe we should have something in the region of about 2.5 million people that will vote.
All right, just hold the thought. We have a caller on the line. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good afternoon.
All right, go ahead. Good afternoon.
My name is Ekene Dilichiku.
Ekene, good afternoon.
Yeah, I listened to the program keenly, and I come to say that the speaker here is a very nice one. He's speaking outrightly what's in most of the minds of the educated people in Nigeria. I also want to add that if what he's saying, if he can put it like a script, like a movie in a CD and send it out to all Nigerians to watch and see what politicians do to the people, I think it will go a long way. Because you are saying, he breaks it down to say that the people want to impoverish, say, the poor, the less privileged, those who are uneducated. And if they watch it as a script, or if there's a way they play it all the time and let people watch it, see how politicians divert our attention, and not only divert our attention, impoverish the poor using this little peanut. You are giving somebody 500 naira to vote, and that's what I say. It is money. It's the person's money. You are making, say, 1 million from him and giving 500 naira. Instead of using the money, convert it, do roads, do lights, put basic infrastructure. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. If not because I just watch him keenly, I don't vote. I don't vote. At times when I see the candidate, I say, vote for what? Now, this person, I won't vote for him now.
All
But
right,
with
thank
this,
you,
I'll
Ekene
go and
Dilichukwu.
get my voter
Thank
card
you
and
so
ensure.
much, Ekene Dilichukwu, for your
Wow.
contribution.
Ekene said something that I hope that every single person who's watching this program today is going to take a decision. If all I'm able to achieve today is to get every single viewer to understand that you are one of the privileged and the enlightened of this country, and you have a mandate to go and get your PVC, your permanent voter's card. That should be the best Christmas present and New Year's present you give to yourself. If you decide not to vote, that's a different ballgame. But at least get your PVC and then look for candidates that reflect your values. Look for candidates that are speaking to your heart, about the vision that of a Nigeria you want to live in. And most importantly, look for the candidates that reflect the kind of people you want your children to grow up to become. If it's not your children, then your grandchildren. Those are the kinds of people that you should vote for. But how do we get them to step forward when they know that the people don't have their PVCs? This is why your PVC is so important. You have to go and get your PVC so we can ask the people who have the capacity to be able to bring the Nigeria that you want, that make it possible for you to build that Nigeria. Then they will step forward. It's all about your PVC.
All right, then let's move forward. You've been talking about 2019 spring and surprises and talking about candidates and all of it. And some time ago, the social media was abuzz with your pictures. And then recently again, there was a picture on social media I saw where it's like you were kneeling on your mark, that having something like that. So we want to ask, are you one of those who might be the surprise come 2019?
Well, I think, let me say a few things. Number one, electoral laws in Nigeria do not allow you to expressly state on public platforms before February 2018 what your aspirations are. Okay? So the best that anybody can do until that time is to hedge their bets. But let me say that I have been running for a new Nigeria for the last 13 years of my life. Anybody who knows Fela Durotoye or has looked at my track record will tell you that I've been running for a new Nigeria. I will never stop running for a new Nigeria. However, the platform that we can use, I've used the NGO platform, I've used for business platform, I've used every kind of platform to run for Nigeria, for the new Nigeria. A new Nigeria where things work, a new Nigeria where everyone can work to make things work. But this is the point. The capacity for us to build Nigeria into a most desirable nation to live in can never be actualized by any one man. It's going to take a movement of people who have a love for the nation, who have a heart for the people, who have the fear of God in their hearts, who have strong values, and who have the right vision. Do I have those things? I believe so. But I am saying to you, it is not enough for a Fela Durotoye to run for anywhere. And I will never run for office. Mark my word, office. I will forever run for a new Nigeria. We may need an office to run for a new Nigeria, but those who run for office, what you notice is that the office is their destination. Meaning every time they run there, once they get there, nothing happens. Or if they missed the opportunity to get there because they were not elected, they go back and sit down and you don't hear anything about them for years. And you see that happen at the political class a lot. Every 4 years, you see them show their face up and begin to talk to the people, but immediately after elections, they die out. Even when they're elected, they still don't come out to show it because they were never running for a new Nigeria. They were only running for office. I will never run for office. Even if I stand to be elected, I will still be running for a new Nigeria, and I will forever run for a new Nigeria. So
categorically speaking now, you have a political ambition somewhat to speak.
Again, look at the word, and I understand where you're going. The word ambition is a personal picture of a benefit that accrues to you, right? People who know me will tell you that Fela has never had ambition in his heart. They would say to you, it's true. They would say to you, now it might be difficult for some people to believe. They would say to you, I have always said, if I ever ran for office, I will not get paid. And I have made an oath with my God 2 times on 2 oaths. The first oath is that if I ever slept with another woman apart from my wife, I should die before I can penetrate her. The second oath is that if I ever steal from Nigeria 1 kobo, I should die before the sun rises the next day. So there is no benefit that any office can give me. I cannot even collude with someone to defraud Nigeria if I was president, because I will die the next day before I can spend the money.
Because of what you have.
So there can be no ambition for me. Any kind of aspiration for a new Nigeria that requires an office is a responsibility to serve. And you are going to be serving people some of who will abuse you, some of who will not appreciate you, and yet you will not get paid and you cannot steal.
All right. Let's quickly go on this break and return to talk more on Standpoint. Stay with us. All right, you're still watching Standpoint, and we have in the studio. Okay, he said he doesn't like being called a motivational speaker, so I'll call him a life coach. Is that okay?
Well, I'm a life coach, but what I do for a living is teaching
leadership.
Organizations and how to leadership, right? So everywhere I go around the world, they call me leadership expert, but except in Nigeria that they branded me motivational speaker, because apparently I do have some way in which I pass my information across that inspires people, but I appreciate that.
Okay, that's fine. Now let's go back to, at some point in early this year, there were calls for restructuring, and it was so loud. Everywhere you go to restructuring, you tune on, you switch on the TV, restructuring, the radio, restructuring. But from your analysis, where can we fix this restructuring? Would it solve anything?
Well, I do believe that there's always room for making things better. That we have to establish. But sometimes what people look at as the problem may actually not be the problem. Meaning, within the current structure of Nigeria and the way we've been, it's framed in the Constitution, if we had the right people, these good people we were talking about for the last almost 1 hour, in all the positions, whether it's governorship, whether it's presidential, whether it's meaning federal, state, or especially local government, if you had good people in those offices, we will not be having any calls for restructuring. Because I don't know whether you've noticed, every time people feel like they're getting a benefit, whether it's because their own son is there, they don't say we need restructuring. They don't talk about it. You find out that much of the restructuring is not a conversation that is coming from the north right now, right? When it was the South, they weren't really talking much about it. So you find out that whenever people get a benefit which should accrue to them from the nation, right, they don't talk about a need to restructure. Now, are there ways in which we need to tweak the Constitution to be sure that much more states get, a better share or a greater share of the resources that have they been endowed with? Absolutely. But everybody knows that in the 21st century, the wealth of nations does not lie under the feet of its people. That the wealth of nations lies between the ears of the people. A nation is bankrupt if it has the richest diamonds and natural resources, but its people can't think of how to be able to make it work. And that's what is happening. So my point is this: the restructuring that needs to go out first must go in the mind and the hearts of people. In the mind of people to understand what it is they deserve as a people, and in their heart to know what it is that they desire for themselves and for their children. The greatest challenge we are facing today is not whether power sits in Abuja or not, is that the power does not sit with the people. Power does not belong in Abuja or in Ikeja or anywhere. Power belongs to the people. And how do you know when the people have power? They hold those who they elected accountable. Why is it that a people will be crying out for restructuring, yet they don't have roads, but money was voted month in, month out? And they can see their local government chairman riding official car, jeep, on a bad road. And nobody has stopped him. But instead, they are greeting him, the chair, our chair. That is restructuring that needs to take place there. Somebody needs to restructure the mind of the people to say that no. You deserve better roads than the one you have. And this man who is driving a Jeep and waving at you from the Jeep is the guy who stole the money for your road. Therefore, stop his car, ask him to come down, and let us all work together. That is restructuring that we need. When we begin to have a nation that holds its elected and appointed officials accountable, then you have restructured the nation. Unfortunately, this is where it goes wrong. If I did not elect the person, I'd feel powerless to demand accountability from that person. So once I don't elect the local government chairman, then I cannot hold him accountable because I didn't elect him. He didn't promise me anything. I didn't fulfill my promise. And I was telling you something about Etiosa local government with 4.5 million people. Do you know that only 11,769 people voted? How can a place where 2.5 million people are supposed to vote have only 11,769?
All right, just hold the thought. We have a caller on the line. Akin, are you there?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, this is Dada Akinwole from Niger State, Suleja to be specific. Mr. Durotoye, Fela, I'm very, very amazed and happy to hear you speak like this. Because what you are talking about started from history because of what you just said, based on what you just said about history. Our people are denied the history of how we all came here. And that is what makes vision to be obscured. And again, education is one of the bases on which most people, most nations can be liberated. And based on that, if you know not what you are doing, based on your lack of education, participation will be lacking. So that is why so many of us who even have the right to vote, because we don't have the history and the vision alongside with education, participation has been obscured. So I pray that people like you begin to have their voice heard by those who are taking charge of this country. I have tweeted on your account, that is your Twitter account, that is the owner of this TV station listening to you, because most of them are the ones paying those who are bringing this nation down. And I pray that people like you, like this man, Donald Duke from Cross River State, come into power to bring the vision of young men like you into governance.
Okay, so
all right, thank you, Akinwole.
Okay, Akin, I'm just going to ask, do you have your PVC though? Because again, that is the bottom line. And I want you to remember I have just one major task in my head of what I would like to come out of this 1 hour. And that is the fact that I'm going to say it again and again. You need to go and get your PVC. If you are watching this program, I promise you, you are one of those that are better off. Either because you can have the generator that will power your ability to watch the TV, or you have the ability to even buy TV. You are one of the, I'm telling you, no matter how broke you are one of the people who is better off in this country today. The question is, what is your own level of engagement and how are you using your voice to speak to the people who are less privileged around you? This is the time for each and every one of you to begin to engage those who are either within your circle of influence or within your circle of economic dependency. For those of you who are watching who are heads of homes, you need to have your nannies, your drivers, your regards. All of them are people who have one vote, one voice, but most of them don't vote. So when you are going out to get your PVC, carry your entire family. Anybody you know above the age of 17 today, make sure they go. The 17-year-old cannot get it yet. They will get it next year, but let them see the process for making it happen. That's what you need to do to make good governance happen in 2019. That's what you need to do.
All right. Now, if you, from the calls that we have gotten, a majority of the people that called have said that why they are not interested in, voting, the voting process and all of that. And over the years, it's been like there's been a disconnect with involving, let's say, the young people in the process. Hence the push for the not too young to run bill and all of that. Quickly, let's take this call before I continue. All right, go ahead. We have a caller on the line from Germany. Go ahead with your contribution. Are you there?
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm there. Yeah, I'm so happy with the young man there. You see, I'll be following your program, TVC. That's from Germany here. On the problem with Nigeria, as the man has highlighted. is most of the TV stations. Because I work from here, I watch them from here. All the TV stations don't encourage young men like this to come out here. They bring in political leaders to come and analyze the problem of Nigeria. Why do you have to bring the PDP to analyze what is happening in PDP states? Why do you have to bring an APC leader to come and analyze what is happening in APC? Or what is happening, what the president is doing? You need to bring a Muslim speaker like this, so that people who cannot vote, the young people in the villages, will see them and able to analyze things that are going. Sometimes I see people that are corrupt, they bring them online to come and analyze what the problem is. They should be allowed young people like this man to analyze, so that the young people in Nigeria will be able to know what is happening and go out to vote.
Okay. Thank you for your contribution.
And I think that in a way, what you really heard was a commendation, because you have brought this young man, 46-year-old young man.
All right.
But I want to say, this is what you're doing with Standpoint today, and I've watched a few of your other programs. This is what should be done across board.
Across the board.
But I want to say thank you for what you're doing for Nigeria. This is you playing your own part in getting good governance. God bless you, God bless TVC, and God bless Nigeria.
Amen. So quickly back to the point, because we are running out of time. I was talking about the Not Too Young to Run bill, how most young Nigerians are not motivated to come out to vote or stand for a political position. Now, how do we begin to drum up this, let me use the word motivation, the desire to hold, not just hold your leaders accountable, but also to be able to serve and also encourage others. There are a lot of you out there who also doing great things like you are doing, but then their voices are not really being heard. In, let's say, the creeks, those areas that need to be touched for them to really know that we need to come out, we need to not sit back.
Well, so you're right. I mean, I think that Nigeria is blessed with so many brilliant young minds, strong, agile, articulate, people with capacity. We've sent some of our brightest and best into the best schools in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. What nations who have advanced beyond mediocrity have done is to usually give the brightest and best of their children the capacity to be able to serve, so that in their retirement, and I hope you remember that anybody above the age of 65 in Nigeria, apparently under the civil service, should be retired.
Yes.
If you have not yet retired after 65, there's something you should have done that you didn't do. But let's leave that at that point. The point, however, is that a lot of the young people lack two things. Number one, they lack preparation, and number two, they lack platforms. And I think that that's part of what I'm doing. And the last thing is, when I say preparation, they need to be trained on how to run, they need to be trained on how to win, and they need to be trained on how to deliver. The last thing, they need to be given platforms that nobody can choose to tell them, you go, you'd stay. I mean, many young people in the last local government elections, bright young men, were told to go and sit down, haven't spent so much engaging the people. Wow. So bottom line is this: the young people need the platforms and they need the preparation. We are trying to prepare them. We have a program called Leadership Census, and people can tune into my Instagram and all of that. But most importantly, they need somebody who looks like them that is going to step forward.
We've run out of time. I must thank you, life coach and CEO of Gemstone Leadership Group, Fela Durotoye, for your time on Standpoint.
I am grateful to be here. God bless you. Compliments of the season to you all.
Well, it's a wrap on the show for today. Thanks for watching. Remember, you can watch a repeat broadcast of the show tomorrow at 7 a.m. on this same channel. I am Veronica Danikboy, and here's wishing you a Merry Christmas. Bye for now.